Of course, there's the race to look for, but there's also the championship situation and how Team Virtue and Napa Racing use their other drivers to help Tom Ingram and Ash Sutton, respectively. Right, we're ready to go racing. Last car will slot into place at the back. A green flag is going to be shown to say that everybody is in position. The drivers will then look towards the lighting gantry. The sun is shining at Donington. Tom Chilton is on pole position. The lights are red. Lights out, good getaway made then by Smiley from third on the grid. Demon start as you would expect from Daryl de Leon, but it's going to be Tom Chilton just ahead on the run down towards Redgate. To the outside line goes Tom Ingram. Is he going to be able to go all the way round the outside to clear his teammate? He's going to try. Up the inside goes Smiley. The road opens up for him, and Chilton is just going to be able to defend as Ingram comes around the outside to secure second. Smiley third as they drop downhill for the first time, and then behind there's a good getaway being made by the Fords as they can start to chip their way up the order. Down to the old hairpin on that one. It's Chilton up front. Camish has made a good start.
Yeah, slightly delay off the line in reaction time. May have been something to do with that clutch from Chilton, but he's managed to hold on. I thought he might let Ingram go through on the outside at turn one, but no, Chilton has stated his intention, at least on lap one, to try and win this race. Yeah,
maybe Team Virtue are waiting to see late race where Ash Sutton gets to, and then they can make a call on how many more points Ingram needs. That's Dan Camish. Look on the inside of Daryl de Leon. You've got Robot up with Ash Sutton, so all the Fords come charging forward. They manage to get past Senna Proctor. Dan Lloyd is in the mix. We've also got drivers on the hard tyre, remember, and the best of those on the grid was Dan Lloyd. Gordon Shedden's on the hard as well as they drop down towards the S's. We'll come to the other drivers on the hards in due course as there Sutton skips across the gravel and blasts down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Look at the gap though that the Team Virtue Hyundais have got on that one.
Yeah, Sutton was surrounded by cars. It was actually Proctor threw it up the inside into the chicane, which is what forced Sutton to go across the gravel. Sutton and Camish's cars running in the Valvoline blue and white colours, reminiscent of the Ford Mondeos back in 1995.
Adam Morgan then on the back of his teammate Senna Proctor, but over the line at the end of lap one. Chilton and Ingram absolutely toe-to-toe, look together. Bit of a gap back to Chris Smiley third, and he's leading the independents. In fourth place it's Camish, Rowbottom is fifth. In sixth place it's Sutton, then Senna Proctor seventh, Adam Morgan eighth, Jake Hill is in ninth place. Daryl de Leon's had a bad first lap, hasn't he? He's really fallen back now into 10th place from fourth on the grid.
Yeah, it's almost like he hasn't been able to switch the tyres on the BMW. Despite the sun shining, he just hasn't got the car hooked up initially. Proctor down the inside and cleanly through again on his teammate.
And then Morgan fights back, doesn't he, and retakes the place. He comes up towards Schwann's curve, and in the background as well, the Toyota's going nicely. Aaron Taylor-Smith and Gordon Shedden are not that far behind, so they are looking very promising right now. Josh Cook, of course, switching to Toyota with the announcement that One Motorsport is not going to finish the season, so he's been welcomed back into the Speedworks fold, and the cars come out of Coppice, then down Starkey straight towards the S's. You've got Chris Smiley there in that third place, ahead of Camish, ahead of Rowbottom, ahead of Sutton. So you can anticipate that Napa would like to get Sutton ahead of those other two Fords.
Yeah, but remember, those two Fords of Camish and Rowbottom are fighting it out over third place in the championship. Yeah. At the moment, Camish is third, but only 14 points ahead of Rowbottom.
And Camish is hanging on to the place on track as well. Sutton closing up all the time. So there's going to be some delicate management of the situation here. Chris Smiley hangs on to third place overall, so it's a 1-2-3 for Hyundais, even though it's 2 for Team Virtue, and then a restart racing car next up. Fourth is Camish, fifth is Rowbottom, sixth is Sutton. In seventh place right now it's Morgan, who, having got back ahead of Proctor, has just edged away a little bit.
Yeah, so do the two Napa Fords of Rowbottom and Camish let Sutton through? We'll have to wait and see. They'll have talked about this scenario prior to the race. They'll have also talked about whether it's important for Sutton to go for maximum points or to try and finish fourth in this race so he can start race two on the advantageous medium tyre as against the front three who will have to start on the hard tyre. But maybe Smiley's going to play that game. He might try and drop back as well. You never know.
And in 10th and 11th, Aaron Taylor-Smith and Gordon Shedden, and they are using the Toka engine, don't forget, in the Toyotas. Now Shedden as well is on the hard tyre, and he's doing a good job in 11th place, the best of those on the hard rubber.
Yeah, that will be encouragement for everybody else to show that that tyre is pretty competitive. It's about 0.6 of a second slower than the medium tyre, but in a race situation that's not too much. It's all about how quickly you can switch the car on as Osborne gets up the inside of Doble. There's three abreast there. Remember, Doble started last.
Yeah, Doble trying to push his way forward, isn't he? As the cars come down towards the S's. Mikey Doble, top three in terms of time, but then he failed the ride height, and to the back he went. Looking back from Sam Osborne's car, Josh Cook trying to drag something out of the Toyota that he's taken over from James Dorlin. And have a look for third place, because Smiley now has been caught by Dan Rowbottom, who's got ahead of Dan Camish, so that's significant in their battle for third in the championship. Now we'll see what happens for Ash Sutton, because he needs to be getting as far up the order as possible. He needs, if he's going to be behind Ingram, to be giving away as few points as possible, and therefore to help him, Napa Racing need to get him past Camish and past Robo. Well,
Rowbottom was behind Camish on the last lap, so not sure where he passed him, but maybe this is a tactical play. We'll have to wait and see, but Rowbottom looks like he's going for every position, doesn't he? Here we see on the straight. Now, is that Camish moving over or defending? It looks like he let him through very easily. He let him through. I'm not sure quite what the play is there, but maybe it's for him to go after Smiley.
Rowbottom is going after Smiley, although Camish isn't exactly dropping back, is he? So the possible switch between Camish and Sutton is on the cards now, as Dan Rowbottom then accelerates up towards Coppice. So he's been allowed to go, it seems, past Camish and gain a place. Now he's attacking Smiley, and we'll see what happens for Sutton. The race-leading cars of Chilton and Ingram still in that order, clear for the moment, as down they come towards the S's. And Robo is thinking about where he can make his move against Smiley, who is still leading in that independence part of the race. Big slide there from Aaron Taylor-Smith as Rowbottom gets up the inside of Smiley down to the Melbourne hairpin, and job done. And have a look at Sutton in the background, because he feints the inside, and as Robo goes through and goes wide, Smiley comes back at Rowbottom and retakes the place, although Rowbottom's going to have the inside line for the next hairpin at Goddard, so he should be able to hang on to that third, but Smiley is not giving up without a fight. And have a look behind, because Camish and Sutton are together, and Ingram is into the lead of the race. There's been a switch now between Team Virtue, the game of chess here to get your cars as high up the order for the championship as possible is certainly happening in both squads. That is Sutton thinking about a move on the inside, and he gets ahead of Camish. Job done. He'll have got the message that Ingram is ahead now for the race lead, so Sutton needs as many points, although that looks as though he had to work a bit harder than Rowbottom did.
Yeah, and also Camish was fighting back at him. They were fighting at the Melbourne hairpin and Goddard's, so much so that in actual fact Adam Morgan has caught up to behind them. So I'm not sure what was at play there. It seemed like the team tactics, orders, whatever it was, were costing them track position rather than sorting it out fairly. And Ash Sutton had to get his elbows out and squeeze past Camish on the inside.
On board with Morgan now, you're looking at the back of Camish, so up into third place is Rowbottom. Now if his car is perceived as being the quickest of the Fords for the moment, then perhaps it makes sense to try to release him and see what he can do about getting up with the Team Virtue Hyundais and taking points away from Ingram, but he's got a lot of work to do, because Ingram to Rowbottom is effectively 4 seconds. Morgan on the attack against Camish. Camish will need to protect his teammate now as they come through the S's. Now, Sutton, of course, having got past Camish, is not done yet. There's another place to gain by getting past Smiley, and if he gets past Smiley and closes on Rowbottom, then there's another decision to be made. Smiley locks up at the Melbourne hairpin.
Well, Smiley did a great job, if that was his intention, of allowing the other two teammates, including Tom Ingram, to get away into a nice, comfortable lead. And Chilton has acquiesced that lead position, having gained a point for leading the race. Everyone that leads a lap gains a point, so he's acquiesced to chip to Ingram now, who's really just got to bring this car home, make sure he doesn't exceed track limits too many times. And Morgan's now looking at the outside of Camish.
Chilton also there has done the fastest lap of the race, so that's a point that he takes and Ingram does not. T'other Tom, Ting, will want that if he can before the end of the race. We're on lap 6 of 14, and Adam Morgan then makes that run downhill. The Hyundai right on the back of Dan Camish's Ford. Adam not quite able to make a move to the inside. Behind the pair, 8th is Jake Hill, 9th is Senna Proctor, 10th is Aaron Taylor-Smith, and where is Gordon Shedden? He's in 12th place now, but still the best of those on the harder tyre.
Yeah, followed by a phalanx of other cars all on the hard tyre. So that's a separate race to this, really. But Jake Hill's now got on the back of Morgan as well, so he's made good progress. This is still on board with Morgan, looking at the back of Camish's car. Trust me, his view out the window is a little bit better than that camera. That makes it look horrendous, doesn't it? But it's actually a lot better than that.
Now, Tom Ingram, the race leader, has yet to use his 1 lap of boost, and Sutton has yet to use his 2. Dan Rowbottom has used 2 of his 4 laps in trying to get himself into third place and to go after those Hyundais. Now, last time around, both Ingram and Chilton were quicker than Rowbottom. Let's see what pans out on this next lap as Jake Hill here, after those 2 wins at Knock Hill, has sort of come back to earth with a bump. The BMW is just not as quick around here as they were in the hot temperatures of Knock Hill.
Camish hasn't used his boost either. Now the leaders have swapped back again, so Chilton is back in front. So I wonder if that was a just give the extra point to Tom Ingram, or whether indeed this is an effort for Tom Ingram to get the fastest lap by having the tow from the other car. But I fancy that the tyres are probably past their best.
Well, you could see how the switch was done. Tom Ingram allowed Chilton back through. So Tom Chilton race leader. And again, perhaps they're thinking, well, OK, Ash Sutton is not a threat. He's not for the podium yet. They might have to switch again. Now Sutton is looking a bit more menacing as far as Chris Smiley is concerned. The team orders the chess game here. He's going to go on right the way to the end. And what Team Virtue decides to do at the end is rather dependent on how far up the order Ash Sutton gets. Ingram is outscoring him, yes, but by how many points? That's what they're trying to manage. So you've got Rowbottom third. He's not really escaping from Smiley.
No, he's not. But Sutton will absolutely, definitely want to pass Smiley, because fourth is the very worst that he would want to finish, and then they can decide whether he takes the third place or not. This is on board with Jake Hill getting cleanly past Adam Morgan before they get to the braking area at the chicane.
Is Dan Rowbottom not escaping from Chris Smiley because he's trying to delay him and give Sutton a better chance to challenge the Restart Racing Hyundai? Earlier on, Rowbottom looked to have good pace and was pulling away. The gap certainly come down, and now Rowbottom is creating a little bunch. Now, if Sutton can clear Smiley, that makes it easier for another switch to put him ahead of Rowbottom. Yeah,
that would make sense for Rowbottom to hold Smiley up a little bit and give an opportunity to Sutton. But he's not quite, he's got too big a gap, if you like, over Smiley. Makes me think that maybe Rowbottom has got some extra pace, not quite sure. But if he could get past Smiley, and he maybe did that using boost, then certainly Sutton could do.
Okay, so right now Chilton leads, and he has done the fastest lap and got the point for that. Ingram is second, he's got a lap leader point, and then you can see that there are 3 seconds between Ingram and Rowbottom, and there's about 3 inches between Smiley fourth and Ash Sutton fifth, and Ash has yet to use either of his 2 laps of boost. He's trying to do this on racecraft and pure pace out of the Ford, and as they head up towards Schwanz he's close enough to have a go against Chris Smiley, and there's the gap to the inside line. Sutton goes through, nicely done.
Beautiful pass, perfectly timed as always with Ash Sutton passes. The problem that Sutton has had is that Smiley's got the maximum of 8 laps of boost to use, so unless he can jump him on a lap that he's not using it, which I fancy he's done now, he's been Camish just opening the door with 2 wheels on the grass. That's the difference between using boost and not using boost.
So through he goes then, but a rallycross required as he puts 2 wheels onto the dirt and gets up ahead of Chris Smiley. Smiley's still leading in the independence part of the race, which is their main goal. So now let's see what happens between Rowbottom and Sutton. As up front, Chilton and Ingram lead the way. And is it going to be Tom Chilton to win, or is there going to be another switch before the very end? Team Virtue thinking championship, of course, for Tom Ingram, but it's very hard to say to anybody, give up a race win. Camish back on the tail of Sutton. Behind Smiley, it is Hill. Then you've got Adam Morgan running 8th, Senna Proctor 9th. Aaron Taylor-Smith is in 10th place. Smiley leading in the independents. Teammate Dan Lloyd is 2nd. And in the hard tyre battle, Shedden is still ahead, and he's hanging on to that 12th place.
Yeah, doing well, but easier to do when you've only got cars on the same tyre behind you. But because at least he's in the same race as them. Now, I fancy that Chilton is not going to get that fastest lap. They're lapping 3/4 of a second to a second slower than their individual fastest lap. So the front tyres have gone off a little bit. So that fastest lap isn't going to happen even with the tow for Ingram. So it's just a case of now, who do they want to get maximum points?
Now the gap between Rowbottom and Sutton for third is 1.5 seconds, and Ash was 1,000th of a second quicker than Rowbottom in sector 1 of the lap we're currently working, and it's lap number 9. Sutton through, Camish through, there is the Smiley, Hill, Morgan train, then it's Proctor, behind him is Aaron Taylor-Smith 10th, and Darrell De Leon then in 11th place, having started 4th on the grid. So something not quite right. As Tim suggested early on, he was struggling, it seemed, to switch on the tyres, but he's never really been able to fight back. So frustration for Darrell De Leon as Jake Hill now gets a good run out of the S's there. Look in the laser beamer, the Laser Tools Racing BMW, to try to go around the outside of Smiley, and he's got his nose in front of the Melbourne hairpin, a little bit of a lock-up, and Smiley gets his elbows out, just hangs on to the place.
But I know that Hill's on the boost this lap, because I saw the light in the rear window flashing, and look at the advantage. Bit of traction advantage off the corner, bit of boost, and Hill's able to get up the inside cleanly this time of Smiley, and Morgan goes through as well with a bit of hip and shoulder onto the grass.
Chris Smiley has used all of his boost, so all the 8 laps are gone, even though we've still got 5 laps to go. So Chris has gone hard and gone early, if you like, with the use of the boost, and that might come back to bite him now.
Well, yeah, he's obviously used that to hold that position, but hasn't quite got the pace without it. So yeah, the gap actually at the fronts has split up. Look at the gap between Rowbottom and Sutton. It's quite a big gap now.
Yeah, it's stretched out by 4/10 as you look at Chilton with Tom Ingram behind. Ting not falling away, is he? So Chilton is leading on the road, and we'll wait and see whether Team Virtue want to switch positions again before the very end. Senna Proctor now comes up to have a go at Chris Smiley. The Restart Racing team has made massive strides this season. Martin Broadhurst working with Chris Smiley on the engineering front, and they'll be discussing the priority, which is to take an independence win and win the Independence Championship. Yeah, overall results are good. Driving standards flags have been fluttered to many. The most recent Sam Osborne as Proctor closes on Smiley into the S's on this lap 10 of 14.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to watch Hill's pace over the rest of this lap, because he's had a strong first half of the race. BMW traditionally better in the second half of the race. This is quite a hard circuit on the front-wheel drive cars, front wheels. You can tend to get understeer as the race goes on, with such a load on the front wheels for hairpins of turning and accelerating. They wear the fronts on board, looking into the eyes of Jake Hill, the current champion, and currently in 6th place, closing on Camish. I'll just take a look at the lap times, and on that lap Hill did a 35.5 and a 35.6 for Camish ahead, as Proctor goes up the inside as he's the next one, but overshoots and Smiley cuts back. Nicely done. Don't give the place up easily, Chris. No need to.
Yeah, he's always been a feisty racer, hasn't he, Chris Smiley, as the cars then now plunge downhill once more. So Chilton, Ingram, Rowbottom, Sutton, Camish, Hill, the top 6. Word about Mikey Doble, who is struggling to make progress in the Cupra. 18th he is, so from the back of the grid he's gained a few places, but now he's got a bit stuck behind the cars on the harder tyre, and some wide cars there as well. Josh Cook, he's not been able to crack. Mikey had, we thought, made history yesterday by doing the best ever qualifying position for a Cupra in the BTCC, and in the end ended up starting flat last by failing that ride height, but they're working towards a good result now in race 3.
Yeah, a little bit of unfamiliarity maybe with the Cupra for the Powermax team, but so often we see when cars have to put on wets at the last minute, the circumference of a warm wet is less than of a dry slick, and that lowers the front ride height. They just got caught out.
Looking back from Aaron Taylor-Smith's Toyota here at Darrell de Leon behind. Aaron Taylor-Smith, who is a great character in the paddock, having a good fight with the BMW. And although it's been a tough season for Aaron, the enthusiasm he brings to the paddock is undimmed, and certainly deserving of a good result. Been a tough season for him, switching to the Toyota squad from the Powermax Racing. His best race results of the season are 6th, but it's been an up and down sort of a year. Let's see what he can do at Toyota's home track, of course, with the Toyota manufacturing plant in nearby Derby. Leaders go through then to start lap number 12. That means 3 to go. Chilton is now 1.2 seconds up the road, so the switch happened to give Ingram, as we were discussing, the race lead and thus the lap leader point. But it looks as though now Chilton is being allowed to drive his race, isn't it? Because that gap is building. So he's played the team game by offering up a point, but not necessarily a win.
No, and I'm glad that they haven't asked him to give up a win. Any win in the British Touring Car Championship is priceless, no matter how many you've had. And this will be a fantastic result. He's driven beautifully. He was 2/10 quicker than Chilton on the last lap. Look into the pit garage. Marvin Humphreys, team manager, done such a sterling job over the years for the team. Good to see him back in good health and a vital part of the Team Virtue setup.
Absolutely right. Tom Chilton then race leader. Onto the Grand Prix loop he comes, with Tom Ingram chasing on behind. 1.2 seconds the margin at the start of this lap as Darrell de Leon's BMW closes right up here to Aaron Taylor-Smith in the Toyota, and he's looking for a way through on the inside as they come now down towards the Melbourne hairpin, but the Toyota there with good speed coming out of the S is able to stay ahead. De Leon closing up under braking behind them. There's an equivalent battle, Toyota versus BMW, where Gordon Shedden and Charles Rainford, there they are, look, on nose to tail, and they are arguing over the lead of the unofficial class for those on the hard tyre.
They are indeed. Good battle between them. Chilton with 7 laps, just 1 less than the maximum of boost to use, is enjoying using it to stretch his lead at the front. And why wouldn't you? You might as well use it. On that last lap, again, he was quicker than Chilton, but using the boost. Chilton hasn't used his 1 lap of boost, but it's almost irrelevant because he's got such a big back gap back to Dan Rowbottom of 3 seconds.
And there in 4th place is the charging Ash Sutton. Now, if he stays there, of course, he doesn't have to worry about the hard tyre going into the next race. But if he stays there, he doesn't score as many points as he would for 3rd. So, which is the better option? Stay 4th, or hope there's a switch between him and Rowbottom to 3rd place?
I personally think he should stay there in 4th. Sacrifice just a few points for the possibility of having a big tyre advantage. Not a big tyre, but enough of an advantage to maybe win race 2.
And therefore take away points from Ingram in that 2nd race later on. So this again will be in the minds of the engineers up and down the pit lane, particularly so now with championship points at play. This is the battle between Josh Cook and Mikey Doble for 17th place, Toyota versus Cupra, and Josh being captain car control coming down the hill in super slow motion there. Right, Camish here under attack from Jake Hill. Jake having chipped his way up into the top 6, so he's gone about this really well over the course of the 12 laps that we have done. It's about to become 13 in the book as Chilton is heading up towards the timing line there. You've got Senna Proctor ahead now of Chris Smiley, so has he gained a place? He has indeed. Comes up towards Goddard's. Last lap.
Last lap, that battle between Hill and Camish could be interesting because on this last lap, Hill has boost available to him and Camish does not. He's used it all up. And here we are on board with Hill. 15 seconds of usage he has, but the gap between them is a little bit of a big one. It's 3/4 of a second.
Downhill comes Hill. We need to be looking at the race-leading Hyundais just in case there's a switch, and keeping an eye also on the 3rd and 4th place Fords just in case. So the field pouring its way down through the Craner curves, and that's Shedden versus Rainford then absolutely together. Gordon Shedden just gets back ahead as they come to the old hairpin. Brilliant battle between these two. These are on the hard tyre, remember. They rub as they head up towards Schrott's curve, and Gordon Shedden fends off Charles Rainford. Front-wheel drive Toyota, rear-wheel drive BMW. Tom Chilton is the race leader. Tom Ingram is 2nd. Is it going to stay that way as they come down towards the S's? The gap to the eye looking a little bit less, possibly. Chilton, with 2 corners to go, leads Ingram, and Rowbottom in 3rd place, much quicker than they were on that last lap by about 0.8 of a second. So he's certainly closed on Ingram, but he's going to run out of laps in order to have a go at him. So Chilton heads out of the Melbourne hairpin. It was at this part of the circuit that Ingram gave the lead back to Chilton, and it looks as though Tom Chilton is going to be able to stay ahead then. He was a winner on the national circuit earlier on in the season. It's going to be an 18th win of his career, or is it? Because he slows right down, he flashes the lights, he comes up to the line, and Tom Chilton comes through just ahead of Tom Ingram. He does take the win. The gap at the flag, 0.6 of a second. Tom Chilton wins from Tom Ingram. Dan Rowbottom is 3rd ahead of Ash Sutton. Then it's Camish from Hill. Morgan comes over the line 7th. 8th is going to be Proctor. Chris Smiley 9th to win the independents, and Aaron Taylor Smith in 10th. The last win was at Donington, so it's a circuit that's been kind to him, and he's absolutely delighted with that, isn't he?